This is the Popham fully dressed landing salmon fly. Hello everyone. Today I'm tying this pattern. The hook is a Philip Jones blind eye size 4/0. The thread to secure the silkworm gut to the hook is the Semperfli Nano silk 24/0 white. Start the thread at the tip of the hook and trim the tag, and wrap the thread back to the start. Secure the prepared silkworm gut from underneath the hook at the tip. With smooth edge-to-edge wraps along the tapered section of the hook. Make any necessary adjustments to keep it in the center. Whip finish trim and add thin head cement and let it set. Trim the ends on the taper using a razor so it's flush with the rest of the hook. Next, I'm switching over to the Uni-Nylon 70 Denier white. Start the thread around the threaded area and trim the tag. Build up the thread around the tapered ends. For the tag, I'm using the Lagerton fine oval gold tinsel. Take a piece of the oval tinsel and remove a section of the tinsel down to the core. Secure the tinsel by the core from underneath the hook, starting at the end of the trimmed gut, and set it so the tinsel portion is even with the barb. Wrap with smooth wraps to that point. Wrap a smooth base for the tinsel to the hook point. Spiral the thread out of the way and burnish the area. Wrap the tinsel edge to edge along the base to the hook point. Strip the tinsel to the core again, unwind the thread and secure by the core with smooth wraps and trim the excess. Build up the thread with smooth wraps for the tail, veil, and the butt. Next, prepare the golden pheasant crest. Choose a feather that has the right arch that will match the topping. Measure, trim your tying point, peel off the unwanted fibers, and flatten the stem. Secure on top of the hook, centered in front of the tag, and wrap with smooth wraps back to the start, whip finish, and trim. Next, I'm switching over to the Uni-Thread 17-aught Trico to secure the veils and the butt. Start the thread and trim the tag and wrap it back to the base of the tail. Build up the base and spiral the thread out of the way. Prepare an Indian crow or substitute feather for the veil. Flatten the stem. Secure on top of the hook in front of the tail and centered. Make any adjustments using a bodkin to center the feather. Take a strand of ostrich herl, strip away the fibers from the butt, secure the herl by the stem at the base of the completed section and trim the excess stems. Wrap the herl edge to edge along the base for 5 turns and secure the remainder from underneath the hook. Build up the thread towards the eye, whip finish, and trim. I'm switching back to the Uni-Nylon 70 Denier white. Start the thread and trim the tag and build up a smooth base along the threaded area. Next, I'm measuring the threaded area. The first 2 marks is for the head and collar. The next marks divide the rest of the threaded area into 3 equal parts, including the thickness of the butts. Prepare the fine oval copper tinsel by stripping the tinsel down to the core. Secure the tinsel by the core from underneath the hook and set it so the tinsel portion is even with the butt. Add the fine flat copper tinsel beside the oval tinsel with a few wraps. Then add the gold silk floss beside the flat tinsel. Grasp all 3 strands firmly and secure with smooth wraps to the ostrich herl butt, keeping the strands parallel to each other without crossing. Build up the thread with smooth wraps to the first mark and spiral the thread out of the way. Burnish the threaded area to the first mark to prepare the first part of the body. Wrap the gold silk floss forward slightly overlapped to the first mark. Secure the remainder of the floss with smooth wraps from underneath the hook to the end of the silkworm gut, and trim the remaining tags. Build up the thread with smooth wraps to the silk floss and spiral the thread out of the way. Burnish the silk body for a smooth finish. Wrap the fine oval copper tinsel for 5 turns, evenly spaced and angled. Strip the tinsel to the core and secure by the core at the first mark and trim the excess. Followed by the fine flat copper tinsel. Wrapped tight to the oval. Secure and trim the excess. Next, prepare an Indian crow feather or substitute. Measure. I want the tips even with the ostrich herl butt. Remove the waste portion from the stem and flatten the stem. Secure the feathers on top and bottom, opposite of each other. Add the prepared ostrich herl and secure from underneath the hook by the stem tight to the Indian crow feather. Trim any excess stems and build up the thread. Wrap the herl edge to edge along the base for 5 turns and secure the remainder from underneath the hook. Repeat the same steps for the second part of the body, same as the first. This time using yellow silk floss for the body and fine gold oval tinsel and fine flat gold tinsel for the rib to the second mark. Add the second set of Indian crow or substitute feathers the same way as the first, followed by the ostrich herl for the third butt. Finally, for the third part of the body, repeat the same steps as the last two. This time the body is blue silk floss, the rib is fine silver oval tinsel, and fine flat silver tinsel to the third mark. Build up the thread and whip finish and trim. Next, I'm switching over to the Uni-Thread 17-aught Trico to secure the next set of veils. Start the thread and trim the tag. Add the third set of Indian crow or substitute feathers the same way as the first two. Build up the thread, whip finish, trim, and make any adjustments. Next, I'm switching over to the Semperfli Nano Silk 24-aught white. Start the thread, trim the tag, and whip finish. Prepare the golden pheasant tippets. Place both feathers back to back and measure the feathers. Have the tips even with the end of the tag. Remove the waste portion from the stems and flatten the stems. Secure the tippets in front of the top veil by the flattened stems. Make any adjustments to center and straighten the feathers and secure. Trim the excess and build up the thread. For the married wing, starting from the bottom, Florican bustard, 2 strands, dyed red, blue, orange, and yellow turkey, single strands, and a single strand of Cory bustard. Then another section of the same fibers. Finally, red, blue, and orange turkey, and 2 strands of Cory bustard, topped off with 2 strands of Argus pheasant, and tapered. I'm starting the married wing with a thick section of dyed red turkey quill, so you have something to hold on to. Add the dyed blue turkey along the top edge of the red turkey and peel away the excess strands so a single strand is left. Repeat this step with the following dyed colors, Cory bustard and Argus pheasant, while maintaining a taper on the tips. Then finally add the Florican bustard on the bottom. These are the finished wings. Place both wings together back to back with the tips even, and bend the wings so there's a space in between. Set it so the underwing can go in between the wings. Secure on top of the hook with a soft loop and a cinch wrap. And make any necessary adjustments at this point, then add a few more cinch wraps. Whip finish to lock in the wing. Adjust the wings so they sit properly by bending the wings in an arch. Trim the excess on a taper using a razor. Build up the thread over the trim butts. Next, prepare the natural guinea fowl hackle. Flatten the stem and fold the hackle. Secure the hackle by the tip tight to the veil from underneath the hook. Trim the excess and build up the thread over the trim butts and whip finish. Wrap the hackle with tight edge-to-edge wraps along the tapered threaded area. Secure by the stem, trim the excess, build up the thread and whip finish. Remove the fibers from the hackle on top of the hook down to the stem and pull the remaining fibers downward and build up the thread. Add 2 segments of married wood duck and teal for the sides. Secure with a soft loop and a cinch wrap. Repeat on the opposite side, matching the bars on the wood duck on each side of the main wing. For the hood, prepare 2 sections of Golden Pheasant Tail. Trim equal sections from each side of the stem. Place both wings back to back with the tips even, and set it on top of the main wing so it straddles it evenly and secure with a soft loop and a cinch wrap. Next, prepare 2 blue chowder or substitute for the cheeks. Flatten the stem and secure. Have the tips even with the first bar of the wood duck. Repeat on the opposite side with the same steps, and make any adjustments so both sides are even. Add the golden pheasant crest already prepared for the topping. Flatten and bend the stem. Secure on top of the wing with a soft loop and a cinch wrap, and make any adjustments so it's centered and the tips even with the tail. Prepare 2 blue macabre strands for the horns. Take a single strand from each side of the stem, left and right, even out the tips and trim the butts so they're both even. And secure on each side of the wing. Trim the excess fibers on a taper using a razor. Build up the thread, whip finish, and trim. Finish the head using black thread. Build up the thread to cover the white. Whip finish, trim, and add thin head cement. Finally, add the 5-minute epoxy evenly around the head. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and hit the like button to see more videos like this.